really what we're talking about when we're talking about dividing and transplanting and layering and, seed collecting is those are all different methods of propagation,
Yeah. Yeah.
of creating new plants.
It's a great way to like develop a home garden is to shop your own garden and to use that act of dividing and transplanting as a way to like grow out your garden. Welcome to the Relish Gardens podcast, where we have conversations about the intersection between the garden and your life and how all those things are intertwined, how to care for your space, how to prune, basically everything that is related to the design and development of a garden and the keeping of a garden.
I'm Claire Liddell Hannon. I'm the founder and lead designer at Relish Gardens, where we build, design, and maintain beautiful gardens. Let's dig in.
We have Stevie on the podcast, and we're talking about divisions and transplanting. One of my favorite low effort, high impact moves is shopping your own garden, both as a way to grow your garden and as a way to edit your garden.
Effectively, when you're talking about transplanting and dividing, you are talking about propagation.
Yeah.
Right? And when you're talking about propagation, you're talking about community and sharing. It's all intertwined.
It is all intertwined. I feel really, really lucky to be living in Washington State right now because we rarely get large freezes, and it's usually only for a couple of days. And so that's why we have this like expanded fall where we're able to like do all of this division. We have like weeks and weeks to do it.
Yeah.
We're still feeling the pinch to get it all done because we have a lot of gardens that we're working on.
Yeah. You can't transplant when the ground is frozen.
No.
That's a no-go. So it's time to go is now.
Generally, a good rule of thumb is like 6 weeks before a freeze. We're kind of getting up to that edge.
Yeah, it's go time right now. It's fall. It is November. It is go time in the garden.
The vast majority of perennials are going to, at some point, need some sort of division.
Mm-hmm.
One of the really great benefits of division is that as you're developing a new garden, you can create visual repetition by moving some of those plants throughout the garden. You can look at what's been doing really well in your personal garden, and you can divide some of those old plants.
As long as it's in the same kind of culture. You can't take something from full sun and put it into full shade.
Yeah,
that's not going to work.
Always pay attention to culture, right? Yeah, that's always always an important thing. Like we just did, you pulled up a clump of like cyclamen, right?
We did cyclamen at the very wooded one with a lot of ferns.
Yeah, we're editing the space for both aesthetics and then also developing a new space because they had added some new features to the garden. It required a kind of a rethinking of the space. And while we're doing that, we're having to do a lot of transplanting because we're rearranging. But in doing so, Stevie is doing a lot of like dividing so that we could grow these clumps out of cyclamen. And I don't know if cyclamen would be one of those things that I would like necessarily say, hey, do that during the fall because they're actually blooming right now.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like you got to do it when you got to do it.
Yeah. It was the time that made sense to do it
for the homeowner.
Right. And for, the time that we were able to give to it. And with cyclamen, you don't really divide them the same way that you divide other perennials because they are corms.
Yeah.
And so you have to divide the corms by just like teasing them apart. Yeah. And so think of a corm as kind of an energy store for the plant, the same way that a bulb is an energy store for a tulip. That is a different method of division than if you were to be dividing a grass. A grass is a clump that you have to either you cut it in half with your shovel or...
I use my hori-hori, use a sawzall.
We've been doing that because we have a lot of really big established grasses at some of our clients' properties, and it takes a lot of muscle to get through that. And at the end of the day, you need to take a nice little Epsom salt bath.
So there's kind of like the plants that put off offsets, like hostas, daylilies. They're going to grow from the inside out, and they'll put out these little offsets, and then kind of pulling from those offsets, you can divide the plant. Usually I would just dig up the whole thing, and then I would kind of tease it all apart.
Well, yeah, if it's a really established plant.
Some of those miscanthus.
The Haconocloa that I did yesterday was really established.
Yeah, those were big.
They were very big.
Yeah.
So definitely the ones with more established root growths, they're going to have bigger root balls and would benefit from being dug up completely and chopped up and divided versus just taking the offsets. If you have a less established plant, then you could probably get away with just doing the offsets and sprinkling them around your garden. But like the plants that you need a sawzall to get through, the plant itself is going to benefit from being divided completely.
Yeah. When we put them back, we'll divide them into clumps, and then we'll put them back in the same spot. So you're not altering the design, but what you're doing is you're kind of resetting that plant's ability to keep expanding, which is what they naturally want to do. So it's still full and lush, but it gives that plant the ability to kind of spread out again. And so that's a great way to keep continuity in the garden, and then also to prevent like kind of this dieback, which will happen naturally if you don't do some of the dividing.
Yeah. And if you have a matured garden and you've taken notice over the years that certain plants that you have that are perennials aren't performing as they once did.
Yeah.
So they might not be blooming as prolifically. Doing a big division of that plant can be really beneficial because it will force the plant to kind of start
reinvigorates it.
Yeah, it reinvigorates it.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. There's some plants that, I mean, they just kind of require
some tough love,
a periodic division. I actually found online a really great resource by the University of Minnesota. They go through 125 of the most common perennials in the United States, and it talks about how often you are going to plan on dividing them. We'll go ahead and put a link to that in the show notes below. So like bee balm, they're saying 1 to 3 years, and then basically you discard the center clump for bee balm because it'll die back in the center. And it tells you when to divide it. So either in the spring or the fall. But a general rule of thumb is that if it flowers in the spring, you divide it in the fall. And if it flowers in the fall, you divide it in the spring. But there's some things that it really doesn't matter when you do it. When you have time is the best time. And so that's just kind of how it is, because there's only so much time. There's certain plants that you're going to do like every 5 to 10 years, or there's certain plants that you're going to do like every other year. And there's certain plants that you're just not going to touch. As you've been gardening for a long time, which a lot of our clients have, they've been developing these gardens for a very long time. They're well-established gardens. And part of the reason why we're doing a lot of division right now is because we're caring for very well-established gardens. And so part of the chores of the garden and the maintenance of the garden is to do divisions. And so essentially it becomes editing. It's not about creating new growth. It's about being able to maintain the design of the garden and to keep that continuity. So then you have too many plants.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with doing a division, that can be a really kind of scary thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Remember doing that rhubarb?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were doing it with the client.
Yeah, because
she was like, you can just do that?
Never done a division.
Chop it with a shovel? And we're like, yeah, you can just chop it with a shovel. Let's do it together.
I think rhubarb's a little bit like the Amish starter bread that it's like you want a division of my rhubarb.
Everybody has it.
I've bought rhubarb for clients, but I've never bought rhubarb for my personal garden. Most of our clients that have rhubarb, they have it because somebody gave it to them.
And I remember there was one time we were transplanting rhubarb on one of our properties, and we thought that we had gotten the entire structure of the rhubarb.
Right?
Yeah, but we ended up just transplanting it.
Oh, okay.
And then come the next growing season, there was just more rhubarb popping up in the original spot. It's one of those plants that if you just leave a little bit of the root tissue in the ground, it's just, oh, okay, here I am. I'm just going to keep going. I got enough.
One of the things that you want to be careful of when you are doing a division is making sure that you get the entire root system. I mean, some plants are going to be more forgiving than others. Like peonies, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting as much of that root ball as you possibly can. It's going to create a healthier plant faster, and it's just less trauma for the plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then some plants you're going to kind of tease apart. If it's a really like delicate plant, I'll kind of use a little bit of water to kind of shake off some of the dirt and kind of try and tease it apart and try and be gentle. It's not a gentle process, is the thing. Some plants require a little bit more care, but there's some plants like rhubarb where you can just take a shovel through, do as little damage as possible. But in Washington, it's planted in the right spot. It's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be quite as delicate. And honestly, you're probably not going to get through that division if you are too delicate. So kind of the key indicators for me that division is imminent is stuff that is growing really densely on an edge. Like if it's butting up against the sidewalk, if it's crossing into another section, if you start to see holes in the center of the plant. Yeah. Sometimes is what you start to see is like certain plants start to look really shaggy when they're in dire need of a cutback or a division. You're doing the division as a way to take away or to edit. You're pulling from that space in order to allow more room for the plants to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll do that with succulents or like a
Mm-hmm.
ground cover. I'll just go through and almost take like a
Little pockets.
throughout.
Mm-hmm.
That way it has more space to kind of grow into each other again. So it's not just like growing on top of itself.
Yeah, and you remove the density.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets too dense. You want your ground covers to grow dense enough.
Yeah, you don't
But
want
then when
weeds.
it gets to be too much, you could tell.
You don't pull the whole root ball out, but you just like go through and take a chunk out so that it has more room, so that it's not sending everything out towards the edges. It has a chance to like still grow in towards itself. Sometimes we do that with like different sedums. Fall is a great time to also create a plan for what you're going to divide in the spring. Okay, I'm not going to divide that now. I'm going to save that and like write yourself a note. In the spring, I'm going to divide X, Y, and Z.
You might not effectively be able to get to dividing everything during one season.
Oh, yeah.
And that's okay. If you have a huge garden, then don't try to do it all at once. Not everybody's 24 hours is the same.
Right.
Right? Everybody has 24 hours in a day, but the way that I am able to spend mine is not the same as the way that you are able to spend yours. I might be able to spend an extra hour in my own garden, but you might not be able to spend that much time. You might only have 20 minutes.
Try and make the best choice for what
you have.
Yeah. When I used to weed my garden, I would just grab the paper bags that I would get from the grocery store, and I would fill up a paper bag. That was my garden time. Some days that was it, you know? And it was like, I'm just going to go do a little bit in the garden. I'm going to see if I can fill up this bag. If you can't do everything now, just do one thing.
Yeah, do what you can.
Yeah.
I don't have 20 minutes. Spend 10 minutes. Spend 5 minutes. You know? Go pick up.
What do you do for 5 minutes in a garden?
You can go around and you can pick up like limb debris, sticks. Go pick up a few sticks.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
You know? And then that's one less thing that you have to do next time.
There you go. There you go. You don't have to do huge amounts of divisions now. You just pick a division this year and maybe do another one next year.
Mm-hmm. You brought up that list of perennials to divide, right? Knowing what plants you have and how often they take to divisions is a good way to plan that. So if I have something that needs a division every 1 to 2 years, I'm going to probably be focusing in on that. And then every 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be focusing in on the other things.
Yeah, and if you don't have a lot of time, maybe you don't plant stuff in the garden that needs divisions every 1 to 2 years. You start to choose plants that take divisions less often. And that can be a really great way to kind of cut down on your maintenance budget and still give you a beautiful garden. If it's something that you can get out there regularly, that's fantastic. But not everybody has that.
And that's why they call us.
So the other thing that we see in the garden is layering.
Layering is when you plant lays on the
still
soil.
It's like a stem of the plant is still attached to the
mother plant.
The mother plant. And you lay it on the ground, essentially. It creates roots. Eventually, it's viable on its own. You've come across a lot of layered plants in the garden. And sometimes we actually just have to like take those out because they don't fit into the garden. Layering happens naturally, but you can also mimic nature and do it yourself.
on our Relish Gardens Instagram, there's a video of me and Jess finding a layered piece of a hydrangea. And you can take a stem from the hydrangea and you can lay it down on the ground and you can put some like little irrigation staples or something.
Yeah, those are great. You don't want to crush the tissue is the goal, but
that stem has to have contact with the soil, and then it will start to create little roots that go into the soil. And then when they have enough root system, you can cut that piece off and you can plant it in another part of your garden. And next year, when your hydrangeas are all blooming, this one will be much smaller, but it will start to develop on its own in another part of the garden. And now you've pulled that part of the design through several parts of your garden.
I've seen this in my yard with my rhodies. And so the rhodies, some of the branches have kind of laid down into the soil. They're getting nutrients from the soil now, not just from the mother plant. And if I cut that off, the new plant is viable by itself.
And then you share it or you put it somewhere else.
Newly developed plants are protected via patent laws. Some plants you can't do this with, but these older varieties of plants, if you can't find it in, at your nursery or whatever, this is a great way to develop a new plant if you want to propagate it for another place in your garden. Recently, we had to shape one of our brugmansias that we put in the pots. So a brugmansia is a tender plant. It's got these giant flowers. They're beautiful. They're really smelly. They're actually quite poisonous. So be careful when you're working with them. But I took home a couple cuttings so that I could just kind of root them and grow them in my sunroom through the winter. If you have certain plants that you really loved during the summer that were in your outdoor pots, this is a great way to kind of carry them over through the winter, and you can plant them out again in the spring.
Some with my pineapple sage.
That's right. Yeah. And so you bring it in and you get that lovely smell and all of that kind of stuff during the winter, and then you take it out and you put it back out.
This is my first time doing it with this plant.
It's always kind of a trial and error.
Yeah, we'll see. You don't need a lot of space to do that either.
Propagation takes a surprisingly small amount of space.
It depends on what you're doing and how much you're doing. But for a home gardener, if you're just trying to propagate a couple of different plants in your garden,
some plants are easier to propagate than others, but it's a great thing to just kind of play with. It doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to have a lot of pressure on this. It's like a form of play to
just try it out.
Yeah, and build new skills in the garden. You're building your propagation skills, and that is gardening, right?
Do it in a tiny corner of your garage on a shelf. If you have no garage, just put them in a little Tupperware box.
Yeah.
Right? With a little hole in it so it doesn't get moldy. It doesn't take a lot of space.
It can be a really fun gardening project to do through the winter.
Try it. And then let us know. Let us know what you propagated. Let us know how it went. We do love knowing what you guys are doing.
Well, and even if it doesn't work, you still learn something.
Yeah.
Start with low stakes plants. It's a great way to build those skills of propagation. Learn from what went well and what didn't, and then do it again. And so then, of course, there's seed saving. You just take the seed head, and where you want to plant it next year, you just put it in that space and see if it comes up. It's
low stakes.
Low stakes.
Yeah.
This is fun. You're mimicking nature. And the birds come, they eat the seeds, they move the seeds. And we're just kind of mimicking what nature's doing already. And we're just paying attention and mimicking it.
You're guiding it to where you want it to be.
Our team recently visited the Miller. It's obviously left a big impression on us. There's these little nuggets that we've taken away from it. It was developed by a woman, Elizabeth Miller, and horticulturally, we would not have the kind of garden culture that we have in the Pacific Northwest without her influence here. So this is her private garden from her home, and that has been stewarded by a team of people since her passing. They showed us their seed starting area.
Garden, it's unlike anything else I've seen so far in my life.
They were also doing fern spores.
Yes.
I know. And I have not done that yet, but I would really, really like to.
We learned about it in school. We watched videos about it in school.
I've never done it.
It is a little bit, I must confess, a little intimidating to me.
There's always
it takes a long time.
It does take a long time.
It's kind of just a different way of propagating.
I think that's the thing too, is when you are going through the propagation of all these plants, you start to realize how much time and energy goes into these plants. You kind of start to see the behind the scenes of why the cost of this certain plant costs this much versus another plant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like certain things are easier to propagate. They're usually a little bit less money at the
nursery.
Part of what you're paying for is that expertise in propagation. Right?
Some things are much faster than others. And like, if we're talking about fern spores, it's literally years.
Yeah. It's
to get a viable plant to go in your garden.
So there's the Hardy Fern Foundation in Washington State, and you can go and learn all about ferns. They often do plant sales. And so I've been to some of them at like the Bellevue Botanical Gardens. Those are great ways to get ferns that you may not come in contact with on a regular basis in the nursery, because these people have taken the time to develop them and to propagate them. But then also the American Fern Society. So if you remember, you can request spores for different types of ferns, and then you can do your own fern development, which I'm like, that is on my list.
Yeah,
it's on my bucket list of things to do. And I mean, it hardly takes up any room. It's not like this like big, huge setup that you have to do.
It's like a Tupperware.
Yeah, it's like, it's really a small, space-saving way to kind of develop plants. But there's some really cool ferns out there that you're really just not going to have access to unless you start to develop the skills of propagation.
Dell, who was giving us the tour, was talking about a specific plant that didn't make it through a hard winter or something. Yeah. But somebody that they had shared a plant cutting with was able to give them another plant cutting from the original plant back to them. So it's this beautiful cycle of sharing and community with each other, and now they get to have their plant back.
Every tour of the garden, they share a plant with you.
They have this little section, and they have a little assortment of plants, and you take one home, and it's really sweet. I really like that part. I mean, I love the whole thing.
It's plants that they have propagated from cuttings or divisions or all of these things, and then they give them away to you at the end.
When you're dividing and editing your garden, you don't always have space to put those things back into your own garden. And so being able to pot something up and give it to a friend or a family member as a gift,
or if you want to go ahead and give them away or donate them to your local plant sale.
Honestly, gardening kind of encourages community, because if you have a beautiful garden and people walk past it, then they're apt to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Right? Or you may do the same to somebody else. I've done it before. I'm from the East Coast, so I'm not aware of the history of the monkey puzzle tree in Seattle. And so when I found the monkey puzzle tree, I talked to the owner of the house about it, and he was giving me the whole history of
how it came to Washington?
Yeah. It's a Chilean tree, but it's attributed to the World's Fair in Seattle in the 60s, I believe.
Really?
Yes. They gave out little saplings of monkey puzzle trees at the World's Fair in Seattle. And all of the kids took them home, and they all planted them in their front yard, which is why you see a lot of monkey puzzle trees.
Wild. Yeah, because they're all huge now. See, there you go. Learn something new. But it's like the whole sharing is caring thing.
Yeah, and just like learning and teaching each other. That's what gardening is.
Yeah, I love that. The act of sharing is so embedded within the culture of gardening. Every gardener I know has plants that somebody has given them. Or they're like, oh, well, I was given this one plant by this one person, and then I've moved it here, and here in my garden. Sharing is part of the development of a garden. And the way that we do that a lot of times is through divisions. That's it for today's episode of the Relish Gardens podcast. If you love this conversation, make sure to subscribe. We've got new episodes every week. And if you know a gardening friend who'd love this, send it their way. Sharing the show helps grow our little garden-loving community. Until next time, I hope you find something in your garden to truly relish.